Mr. Secretary.
Hi.
Is the State Department currently preparing to engage with the Biden transition team? And if not, at what point does a delay hamper a smooth transition or pose a risk to national security?
There will be a smooth transition to a second Trump administration. All right? We're ready. The world is watching what's taking place here. We're going to count all the votes. When the process is complete, there'll be electors selected. There's a process. The Constitution lays it out pretty clearly. The world should have every confidence that the transition necessary to make sure that the State Department is functional today, successful today, and successful with the president who's in office on January 20th, mid-afternoon, will also be successful. I went through a transition on the front, and I've been on the other side of this. I'm very confident that we will do all the things that are necessary to make sure that the government, the United States government, will continue to perform its national security function as we go forward.
So you believe there's widespread voter fraud, that the reports that we're getting from Pennsylvania, from Michigan, showing vote totals in massive leads or significant leads with 99% reporting are going to be overturned, and that the United States failed to conduct a fraudulent free election?
Rich, I'm the Secretary of State. I'm getting calls from all across the world. These people are watching our election. They understand that we have a legal process. They understand that this takes time. Right? It took us 37 plus days in an election back in 2000. We conducted a successful transition then. I'm very confident that we will count, and we must count every legal vote. We must make sure that any vote that wasn't lawful ought not be counted. That dilutes your vote if it's done improperly. We've got to get that right. When we get it right, we'll get it right. We're in good shape.
Should foreign leaders not be calling
We're good
President-elect Biden?
Who's next?
Donald Trump will have a second term. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris know they lost. The media know they lost. The entire Democrat Party knows they lost. They also know they're going to lose at the Supreme Court. That's why they're pushing so hard to try to gain ground now, because they know they won't get it later. They want to transition power away from President Trump and to the Democrats before any recount or any Supreme Court ruling, because it will be harder for the Trump administration to get their position back. They are literally trying to take the White House by manipulation and the force of the media. The media is their lapdog puppet, prostituting themselves out in order to ingratiate themselves if Biden actually assumes power. Radical left media outlets like Fox News shame, ridicule, despise, and humiliate any Trump supporters in order to intimidate us into submission. It's not going to work. We can see exactly what you're doing. The media assumes that Americans will grow weary of getting silenced, having our views distorted, and that we'll just sulk away and sit in a corner reminiscing about the good old days when we had the right to speak freely, at least as freely as our liberal counterparts. Jack Dorsey, Mark Zuckerberg, and the media giants have grossly underestimated conservative willpower. See, they've made a critical miscalculation. They estimated that conservatives would respond the same way that they would to getting bullied. Sulk away, go cry in a corner, and talk trash about your friends. Yeah, that's not really how conservatives respond to bullies. They are waking the sleeping giant of conservative Christian values, those who have been too busy going to work, raising their children, volunteering at church, and spending time with family, are aroused from the slumber of everyday life. You're going to see a wave of conservative willpower that this country hasn't seen in 85 years, maybe more. Conservatives don't just roll over and sulk. We stand up for truth, justice, and equity, and the preservation of rights for everyone, not just those who think like us. Too many men and women have fought and died for this country to be wiped away in a week by a fake election. Those of you at home concerned that your Bill of Rights is being deleted by big tech, your concerns are valid. Those concerned that the election apparatus Democrats have put into place will mean we'll never have another free and fair election, fair point. For those of us that have been minding our own business, working hard, trying to contribute to society and manage our own households, it's time to rise up and raise your voice. Our nation is being wiped away by an algorithm, and big media is creating the illusion it's not happening. It is happening. Donald Trump is going to win his rightful second term. He won it in the election last week, and he'll win it again at the Supreme Court. Biden's making such an aggressive push to be declared the winner because he knows any scrutiny will reveal that he did not win. Show your support for the Trump campaign and go to donaldjtrump.com/contact to fill out a contact form. Let the Trump team know you support them. You're grateful for their efforts and you want them to continue the fight. President Trump has the support of the American people. If this country is worth fighting for, truth will prevail. If it doesn't, we lost a long time ago because we weren't paying attention. This is our last hope of a free and fair country, our last chance to remain a city on a hill, a beacon of hope and light to the world. We must prevail. Fight like hell.
Everyone, James O'Keefe here, Project Veritas election fraud update. We have received 12,000 tips. We've been working round the clock overnight to go through them all. We are looking specifically for incontrovertible evidence, first-hand evidence, not just hearsay, of voter fraud in states like Pennsylvania and Georgia. We have received a couple whistleblowers. We're trying to convince these folks to go on the record. They're very scared, worried about being fired. One of these folks has recorded their supervisor at the USPS. We're trying to get that recording. We're looking for more. Specifically in Pennsylvania, we're offering a $25,000 reward if any of this evidence is used in our stories. The time is now, this week. It takes a brave soul to do this. We're calling this movement Be Brave, Do Something, enabling citizens to be catalysts for reform. These are the salt of the earth people, the people that are not interested in fame or money, but just doing right by their country. One of the greatest ironies is the media parroting this notion that there is no evidence of fraud, and as I've tweeted at Jake Tapper, journalists have an obligation to pursue truth. Wherever it leads them, that no evidence orthodoxy becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy if you don't investigate anything or acknowledge evidence. We know there's evidence of fraud. There's more out there. We know you're out there. We're looking for you. We're there to serve you. We've got undercover people right now in the Northeast corroborating this information. We should have a story shortly. If you see something, say something. Record it, send it to us. Don't be afraid. We'll have your back.
Let's check in with my next guest. He is the Director of Investigations and Research for Judicial Watch and become a staple here on the show, filling us in on all kinds of stuff that we need to keep an eye on. Chris Farrell from Judicial Watch. Chris, how you doing, my friend?
Great to be with you. Thanks.
Well, where do we begin? Let's begin with the investigations. How about that? We have got multiple reports of everything from dead people and dogs voting, people voting multiple times, people that weren't in states long enough to vote but somehow got registered, to extra ballots just poof appearing, stuff that wasn't signed, filled out incorrectly, getting counted. I mean, how much more evidence do we need, Chris, and what are you guys at Judicial Watch doing to prove to Democrats on the left, voters, politicians, and the left-wing media that voter fraud is happening, did happen?
We have active investigations in all of the contested states. So whether it's Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, Arizona, every one of them, we've got active investigations underway. We're going to get records and documents. We always do. We're very good at it. We also have a 20-year track record of going into elections and uncovering the truth. We're the ones back in the year 2000 who went into Florida and gained access to all the Florida ballots using the Florida Sunshine Act, the open records law. The rest of the world then came in behind us. But the folks that actually got access to the ballots the very first time, the hanging chads and the dimpled ballots, that was Judicial Watch. And then the rest of the world came in behind us. So we have a long track record. We just released a report earlier this month that shows that there's 1.8 million people on the voting rolls that shouldn't be there to begin with. All that documentation is on our website. You can read it. We've also been successful in removing people from voting rolls who shouldn't be there. And that's to the tune of 1.5 million in Los Angeles County alone. We've had big court successes in Kentucky, Ohio, and Indiana as well. And so we've got a long set of credentials when it comes to elections.
Chris, tell us, if you can, because I know once it's pending litigation, and if you're a lawyer, you're not supposed to discuss things, but what, if any, can you tell us where we've got the concrete evidence? We've heard from Trump's team come out and say, we've got it, they've made the claims. I just like hearing it from other people's mouths so viewers hear it, that we know for sure there's concrete evidence out there. Can you describe some of the voter fraud that we know of going on in Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, the Silver State? I mean, that whistleblower from the weekend just told Fox News, hey, I worked for one of them here in Nevada, and I heard the supervisor tell us to do this. I witnessed it. He actually filled out an affidavit. How can the left and the media ignore that when somebody's actually putting their name to it and saying, I saw voter fraud?
The critical thing for everyone to do, and I don't care if it's one of your viewers, producers on your staff, other media, you've got to go to the source document and look at it yourself. So in instances where, like Rudy Giuliani or other of the president's attorneys have gone into court and filed lawsuits, the lawsuits themselves and the attachments, the exhibits that are actual sworn declarations, that's what people need to go and look at. Not the secondhand scuttlebutt, not the I heard a story and my friend's brother, sister. I don't care about that. I want sworn declarations. I want to see records. And what's been filed in court is what you can hang your hat on.
That's what I'm looking forward to seeing more of and hearing more about, is what's actually in these documents where they've got the proof. The biggest problem is, though, Chris, how much damage is already being done by Biden and Harris stepping out there on the stage with their fireworks and their family. I couldn't believe Hunter showed up, by the way, but that's a whole nother story for another day. But getting up there, celebrating, the media being complicit, pretty much saying, declaring, which is not the media's job, he's the winner. How do you backtrack from that now if we go 30, 40 days like we did in 2000 and this gets overturned and we have a President Trump for 4 more years? The damage that is done, how are we going to get that information out there if the media continues to deny it even exists?
Well, the problem with it is that it's information warfare. Okay, this is a psychological conditioning operation to program the American public to accept something as being a fact that is not a fact. It's alleged, it's announced, it's promoted, but it's not. The media does not get to call elections in this country. There's a process. There's the Electoral College. They meet in early December. They cast votes. Congress then ratifies what the Electoral College votes on. That's the process, not the Associated Press or some other outlet making an announcement based on their projections. And the problem is, the more the American public keeps hearing president-elect over and over again, it's brainwashing. This is psychological conditioning. The American public is being manipulated, and the facts don't support it.
Yeah, and unlike 20 years ago in 2000, we now have more cable outlets. We have social media, which is blocking conservative voices. I mean, my God, they've blocked the president from tweeting about what's going on with the investigation. So you have social media teaming up with the mainstream networks and cable outlets, and then all the Democrats and the candidate Biden and Harris jumping on the bandwagon, and all of them telling the American people, this is the way it is. He's won, when in fact, that's not the fact. But
Correct.
Facts don't matter, right? Anymore, I guess.
Unfortunately, when you have social media and the news media acting as the propaganda arm of the Democratic Party, that is the one-sided story you get. You are exactly correct.
Yeah, it reminds me of that meme that keeps just filtering all over the place. And we've heard some leaders say it over the last couple of weeks, too. You're entitled to your opinion. You're not entitled to your own facts. And the facts of the case are, folks, if you're watching this program with Chris and I right now, share it with everyone. Joe Biden is not your president.
Jordan Sekulow is the executive director at the American Center for Law and Justice, joining us live now. Jordan, good to see you. I know you were part of the president's legal team disputing several results from several key states. I know there's so many going on right now, but kind of walk the viewers through this. How many states is litigation going on in, and how are you feeling about it now?
Sure. So we're really just beginning the legal challenges that are going to be filed by the various entities like me. When we represent the president, we're one of the early ones because we've already had action out of the Supreme Court by Justice Alito as it relates to Pennsylvania and the segregation of late ballots. They had to return, and most of those counties came back in precincts and said they didn't segregate, and they're not sure if they can. So now we're awaiting the next step, the next order from possibly Justice Alito or the entire Supreme Court. It'll be up to him to kind of decide the next step there. So as the president's legal team, that's where we went first, was the U.S. Supreme Court and Pennsylvania directly. There's already another case out of Philadelphia that's been filed directly there about the poll watching. And then you move across the country. They are already being filed in Wayne County in Michigan. That's where Detroit is. That has been filed. And we're looking at potential lawsuits being filed, a number of potential lawsuits being filed additionally in Pennsylvania, Arizona, Georgia, Wisconsin, Nevada, and Arizona, along with the recounts. And people have got to kind of take a step back, because we're talking about the legal process now. And Mitt Romney, who I respect, but he got ahead of himself. He knows, as an attorney, that first you've got to put together all the information. And we were dealing with the first 5 days after the election. People were throwing around lots of things. This happened, this machine, this did. So we have to research all of that, and then we decide what we take into court. And I just want to remind people that in 2000, when we had this disputed election ultimately decided by the Supreme Court, it took 37 days from Election Day to when the Supreme Court issued that 5-4 decision, stopping the voting in Florida, making President Bush, giving him the electoral votes to be president of the United States. We are 5 days into this, 6 days into this, starting the 6th day into this. Yeah. We've got 31 days even on that calendar. So it takes time legally, but this is going to be at the most expedited pace you could be at.
Jordan, the big argument against your case here is there's no proof of widespread voter fraud. I know you've heard this over and over. What do you say to that?
Wait until we file in court. Wait till you see what we file. Don't just take it from talking points. Fine. If you don't want to just take it from Rudy Giuliani or me or Jay Sekulow, my dad, who's leading a lot of these efforts for President Trump at the Supreme Court level, if you don't want to take it from us, take it from the court filings. And I'm telling you, those are coming this week. They were not going to happen 2 days after the election. That would be reckless on behalf of attorneys like us to make allegations like that. We need the evidence. We're putting it together, whether it's machine problems, whether it was counting problems, whether it was the people not being able to watch and see how the votes were counted. All of that we need to put together in a legal document to put forward the evidence. Then I think Mitt Romney, after looking at our lawsuits that are filed, he can weigh in with a lot more information. And so can some of these other Republicans who say give up. They need to see what we are actually going to file. Yeah. And I will tell you, we're not going to just be filing allegations. It will have to have evidence in it. So anything filed will have evidence that relates to whether it's the fraud, whether it's the miscounting, whether it's the issues with machines, whether it was the issues with poll watchers, whether it was the issues with segregated late.
Jordan, let me jump in really quick, buddy. Let me jump in really quick if you don't mind. I got our panelists with us too, ones you're familiar with, Victoria Tunzing and Joe DeGenova joining us live here on the show. I got a few seconds left with both of you here. Joe, just weigh in on this for me with Jordan.
I agree with 100% what Jordan is saying. The things that were said by Mitt Romney are simply uninformed and premature. We are nowhere near anywhere resolving this. This has just begun. The lawsuits start to be filed today, and we have plenty of time.
Victoria.
Mitt Romney had no basis to make a challenge to his loss. There are multiple bases for it here.
You know, Jordan, as you go through the legal process, and by the way, we just appreciate, too, you walking us through it, because it does get messy when you look at everything and what could potentially be brought as evidence. But the bottom line is we have viewers at home that are watching this, and we know that they've got the idea that there's going to be a legal battle, but they wonder if all of this could possibly overturn the election. Do you have a thought on that?
Well, there's two major points. One is the president is committed to making sure that this was a legitimate election and that all the legal votes were counted. And if the legal votes came in and the legal votes showed Joe Biden winning the presidency, he will accept that. But the second part, so that's the first part. Was this legitimate? The second part is going back and looking through, and I understand your viewers' concerns. Is one case in Pennsylvania going to do it? No, it's going to take Pennsylvania. It's going to take a Michigan. It's going to take a Nevada or Arizona, Georgia with this close recount. But I want them to keep the faith right now. As Joe just said, we are just beginning. So we would not be advising the president to even undertake this and raising money to do this legal defense fund that the RNC is doing, if we didn't believe there was a chance that because of this legal action, he could be president the next 4 years. So we're in the very early stages. Let it come together. Don't get too far out ahead. Don't get too excited either. Let the lawyers do their job. That's what we're just starting to do. We got all this stuff that poured into us in those first 5 days of allegations of wrongdoing. Let us take it all in. That's what we've been doing, and then start filing the appropriate lawsuits.
Jordan, I'm keeping your phone number on speed dial. I'm calling you every week.
Sounds good.
We're hanging on to every word here. Jordan Sekula joining us live. We appreciate your time, sir. Joe Victoria, stick around. A lot more to cover.